Hello and welcome to this episode of Terror Express. Today we have the lovely, talented K11. Kay, how are you?
Hello, Jason. It's so good to see you and hear you. Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. It's been 2.5 years since we saw each other in Atlanta with
2.5 years. Far too long, buddy.
Yes, it has been the Renegade Film Festival where you won an award for Best Picture. If I remember correctly, that was Black Lake, and it took home the Lizzie.
Yeah, well, no, so it was best film for Maya and best cinematography for Black Lake. I have two now.
Oh, excellent. Wonderful. Yeah, I was there for the Black Lake. I unfortunately had to miss the Maya, but I did watch it, and whew. Now we're talking about a film about possession. And in cinematic history throughout possession genre, the subgenre of possession, it's typical that the character who is being possessed is a female and the demon or the entity who's doing the possession is a male. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something I think that's been quite traditional in almost every possession film I can think of. Not that I've seen all of them. I don't want to assume that's the case with all of them, but I think quite distinctly that's what made The Conjuring quite different for me, which was like a haunted house / possession genre film, where the mother is possessed by a female entity, and I thought that was something that was really different.
Yes.
Yeah. And also I think the only other kind of thinking about male on male possession, the only one I can think of is Freddy, one of the Freddy movies where he possesses, what's his name? Is it Jesse?
Jesse, Mark Patton. Mark.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It was the character's name. The character's name was Jesse, played by Mark Patton. Yes.
That's the one. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because even though Freddy is a almost physical, baddie, it's still a possession, the way it comes across. So I think Freddy and then the Conjuring film, they're very different in terms of possession films. And quite commonly it's always male on female possession, which is interesting. Not surprising.
What is your take on that? Why do you think that is?
So something I'm exploring in my third feature film is I think that link with women and the other world. I think women are perhaps just more of a gateway, perhaps. I think because women produce life, right?
That's exactly my take on it. Yes.
Right. Yes. So I think they act as like this kind of spiritual gateway, which allows kind of entities to possess them or travel through them. And I think in the society that we live in currently, and we have done for decades, with the patriarchy and things, it only makes sense to have that attacked again by a male entity, not just in body, but in spirit, soul. Yeah.
And your point actually made me think, and I sat back and I thought, why is that? Why is it always the woman who's possessed by a male entity, or the majority of the films? A couple of exclusions, as we've mentioned, but and it's like you mentioned, women make life. They can sustain it and carry it and bore it into the world. So it kind of ties in with that. Like, if they can make a life, why can't they sustain one that's already existing through possession?
And I think now, although I think with the Freddy Krueger example, I think that was very groundbreaking for its time. Especially if we look at Jesse as a character, I think we can perhaps look forward to more possession films that aren't male on female, and perhaps a bit more gender fluid. That would be quite exciting to see, because I think there's definitely a commentary being made there.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Let's go back to Maya. Before we go, though, remind me, I would love to talk about your third film, if you can talk about that, if any information you can release, if it's not confidential yet. I like to.
I haven't spoken much about it officially. I did briefly talk about it at Renegade Film Fest. It's called vessel. So if you think about the human, not the human, the female body as vessel, as gateway. So there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, that's all I can really say about it for now.
Let's talk about Maya.
Mm-hmm.
And for our listeners, Maya was shot in Pakistan. And now I understand that filming Maya was dangerous and actually life-threatening. Tell us a little bit about that experience and that process of filming Maya in Pakistan.
So I was there in 2014, 8 years ago. I was very young, younger. And I mean, Pakistan it's a dangerous country, as you know, in regards to how women are treated. But where isn't now, right? But it's a kind of country where you can get robbed on your doorstep. Like you can literally be leaving your house and just get robbed at gunpoint.
Wow.
It's pretty dangerous. Not always the case, but in certain areas, you won't really see women going to the markets by themselves, that kind of thing. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough shoot. It was also incredibly hot. I took a lot of risks. There was a particular scene in the market where I couldn't really afford to just stay stable with like a tripod. I was literally just like running through the markets, getting the shots that I needed and getting the hell out of there.
And it's funny you mentioned the market scene, because that's the scene where I was wondering, what was that scene like to film with all of the vendors and the background? Were they aware that you were filming this? Because no one looked at the camera. They were all very authentic in that scene.
That's the power of editing. That's the power of editing, Jason. So I did not tell people beforehand that we were filming. I think that would have caused quite a lot of issues. So we just kind of went in there, did the scenes. But then every time somebody looked at the camera, and because we were a mostly female cast and crew, yes, a lot of men did look. They practically stared at the camera. Wow. So that was always a cue to like cut there, cut here. So that really influenced a lot of the editing decisions.
Did you get a lot of
those outdoor scenes?
Yeah. Did you get a lot of resistance from anybody during that scene or any others?
Not for Maya. Some of the vendors were really nice. They gave me fruit and things. So
that's great.
And I sometimes told them I worked for the news, which for some reason gave me a bit more credibility, because the arts really are not appreciated in countries like Pakistan. So yeah.
It's fascinating. Now, Maya, again, like I mentioned, is a movie about possession, a young girl named Maya who is possessed by the Jinn. Let's talk a little bit about the Pakistani culture and the Islamic religion regarding Jinn possession. Talk a little bit about that. What is that all about?
So Jinn are part of the Islamic religion. So all Muslims will believe in angels, in Jinn. So Satan was considered the chief of Jinn, and then obviously cast down. So Jinn are like, they could be anything. They could be any religion, any shape, any size. They can believe whatever they want. They're made from smokeless fire. So it's quite, it's weird because people still believe in this, and it is generally accepted. It is generally accepted across South Asia and all Muslim countries. I mean, even like more perhaps developed countries like Singapore, people still believe in this, and they conduct themselves quite carefully around places where they might think Jinn exist.
Now, I heard when you were shooting Maya, the house that you were shooting in actually had a Jinn that was present and gave permission to film in this house. And not only that, but also you can hear authentic sounds of the Jinn in the film.
Absolutely. So not just one Jinn, Jason, several Jinn.
Several. So, okay, talk about this.
The house. So it is believed that Jinn are everywhere. Like if you have an empty room in your house, it's quite likely there's a Jinn in there just occupying the space. So people tend to be wary in like Pakistan and like other places. They tend to be really wary of wasteland areas where perhaps people just throw their trash, or places that have been abandoned for years. So this house was actually built on top of that kind of land. The land had been vacant and people would just kind of throw their trash there and stuff. So it was cleared and this house was built on top of it. So
I don't know. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know if your story right now is literally giving me goosebumps. Like my entire body is covered in goosebumps right now. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's all right. No. So yeah, and it just made sense for Jinn to live there. And I remember when I was quite young, I was maybe 16, 17. I was a teenager, and I had one of my most memorable Jinn experiences in that house, where we had a lot of power cuts. We still do in Pakistan. I visit, well, when I'm filming now, but they still have like this whole power cut issue. And I remember going to an event with my parents. We were in that house and the lights went and I felt something hold my hand. Like it was just the biggest hand holding my hand, and my brother was in front of me, and I just knew at that moment that it was, yeah, just something
was
so
your
real. And
was your feeling about this, was it a sense of like dread, or was it a sense of support? Kind of. I know it's a strange question, but
it is yeah,
sometimes be a part of it.
Yeah, well, at the time I was scared. I bolted. I was like, I'm out of here. Yeah. Also because I've been very much aware of the Jinn presence in that house. But when you're young and you're into horror, nobody really believes you. So
yes, I've encountered that as well. Let's talk about you a little bit. And growing up, you had mentioned that you grew up on this building. For listeners who may just be hearing about your past for the first time, so you're a gay woman. Mm-hmm. You're a very strong filmmaker. You have a great style, which I want to talk about as well. You're raised by a very conservative. Let me start that sentence again. You were raised by a very conservative Muslim family. Mm-hmm. How does your family feel about your accomplishments and your achievements as a filmmaker?
Ooh, it's a really interesting one, Jason, because when I went to film Maya in 2014, that I went to Pakistan, I quit my job, I saved up all this money, and I turned up with all my film equipment. And my family in Pakistan were really shocked. They were like, "Oh, you do make films?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do. That's what I'm here to do, like make this film." And making Maya was very problematic because, like I said, film is not seen as something respectable people do. It's mm-hmm. just regarded as cheap entertainment. And I think it's interesting because that still reflects in the audience that watches my movies. I hardly have a South Asian audience that will pay to see my films or turn up to festivals. But as for my family, Maya was problematic. It was quite a tough experience. I think at the time, because I had a lot of young actors as well, there were certain rules, like, we need to get them into bed and things like that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm making a movie here. Everybody signed a contract. So it was really tough. And I think my parents, for example, my brother, I know they're really proud of me as a filmmaker, but I don't think it goes beyond that. I don't think they really see what's going on in my movies. So with Black Lake, with Maya, because there are subtle LGBT themes there. Yeah. And they will not be subtle in Vessels. So
let's move into, like I said, your stylistic approach to filming. Let's talk about that. You're very stylistic. Every scene drips with suspense. Your camera movements are very slow and deliberate, and it's like leaving you wondering what's the next scene going to be. Mm-hmm. What is your inspiration for that style?
I think it's mindfulness. Jason, I think it's just appreciating what's there rather than rushing it. I don't know. I love things like NBC's Hannibal, which really pays attention to, and it's not just what you see, but what those things make you feel. I'm a Jungian, so I'm heavy on symbolism. So I'm always asking people to really look, not to just be like, okay, next, but to really look. I like to invite people in, like the screen is a door. I'm basically inviting people into my haunted house and just allowing them the opportunity to just really explore that in their own time, I guess, without rushing to the next scene.
You had mentioned before that you felt the Jinn grab your hand before. This is the part of the podcast where I like to talk about true supernatural events. And you said you had felt the Jinn grab your hand when you were younger.
Yeah.
What other experiences have you had with the supernatural pertaining to either the Jinn or otherwise?
Oh gosh, so many, Jason, so many. So, well, even with Maya, in 2014, when I first arrived in Pakistan to film Maya, I remember putting my suitcase on my bed to unpack. Literally just got into my room, opened up my suitcase, and the bedroom door opened, like slow opened, right? And I thought, it's not really windy, but I'll take it. Maybe there's a breeze. It's okay. So I just kind of shrug it off. And then literally a few seconds after that, there's a chest of drawers in the room, which is like proper heavy wood. And the top drawer, the one that we see in the film where Maya gets her mobile phone out, that drawer opens by itself. Like it just pulls out. And I'm like, okay, that's physically not possible.
Yeah, these are the things that give you the chills, and you sit there and you scratch your head and think, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah, right. And I remember because at that time I was like logging things on Facebook, and I was like, it has begun. And I was just like, hello, I'm here making a movie.
So at the end of every episode, I like to do this thing called the express round. That's where I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. You just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. You don't have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. You can think about it if you want, but it's just a quick little back and forth. So
all right, I'll hold on to my chair.
First question for you is, what's your favorite horror film?
Oh gosh, The Cell by Tarsum Singh. Yes, that film with J-Lo.
If you were to write an autobiography, what would the name of your book be?
Probably something silly like Death Becomes Her or something.
And if they were to make that book into a film, who would play you?
Oh my gosh. I think that would be really tough because I'm just so unique, Jason. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Who do you think would play me?
I think maybe I think if Kristen Stewart cut her hair short, I think she would be a good.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent choice there. Yes.
What will be your legacy?
My legacy will be this set of films. So Maya, Black Lake, Vessel, they're almost like an informal trilogy. That's going to be my legacy. I see Maya as like my mind, Black Lake as my heart, and Vessel is my soul. So
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful answer.
Legacy. Yeah.
This one's gonna be easy for you. What is your favorite hamburger topping?
Gotta have pickles.
I get extra pickles as well. You have to have pickles on a hamburger.
Gotta have pickles. Do it.
Okay, thank you. It has been so great seeing you, and the next time I see you, it will be at a table with coffee, with pie, with the burger, with lots of pickles.
Amazing, Jason. It's going to be amazing. But obviously, the highlight of that is going to be you. So I am super excited. Yeah.
Of course. I'm kidding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and you have an excellent evening. We'll talk again soon.
You too, and thank you everybody for listening.